doing wrong, but it's like, I don't really get that gap.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So to me, the issue is that if you don't understand the gap, that means you don't really understand the argument. So I would slow down and focus on making sure you thoroughly understand the arguments. You can paraphrase them or reframe them in your own words. How are you, for example, with necessary assumption questions?
I'm okay with those. Well, yeah, I guess I say I'm okay with them. I'm okay with the questions. It's just I know like lately, like, okay, so I would say that I have saw improvement where with the weekend constructed questions I have, but I don't know if it's by chance, like I'm just getting them right, just by happenstance me getting them right, or if it's like, okay, I really got it down pat.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, there's 5 answer choices for every LSAT question. So if you get something right, chances are it's not simply luck alone. You probably understood something about it. So I'd look at, for the arguments that you get right, the questions you get right, let's say it was necessary assumption. How could you reframe that stimulus and that answer choice to be a strengthened question or a weakened question, potentially? You'll see this in some of the workshops inside the course that I've taught in the past, where I'll take the same stimulus and analyze it from a variety of different perspectives. So the benefit there, one of them, is that if there is a question where you're good at that question stem type, you can use your areas of strength and then apply them to areas where you're not feeling as strong. Because to me, I mean, there actually shouldn't really be a difference fundamentally in how you do with strengthen or weaken or flaw or necessary assumption, because they're all cases where you have an argument containing a gap. It's simply a matter of perspective. That's one thing I'll say. Reframing question type. Another thing is, I asked about resources or what you've done to solve this issue already, because there's a ton inside the course on strengthen and weaken questions specifically. I mean, I could give you the theoretical overview now, but I don't see the point, because you already will get a much deeper version inside the course than whatever I would give you in 2 minutes off the top of my head. I mean, I've done hour-long classes, multiple, going over strengthen questions, weaken questions, the 3 or 4 overall categories. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know it was for the weekend, the answer, whatever the answer is, it makes the question, it makes the argument true, if I'm not mistaken. It's something that your class taught, that with the question, if it's a weakened question, the answer does something to that. I don't know if it makes the argument valid or something to that, and I can't remember.
I mean, don't go off what you may have memorized in the past, because there's a dozen plus different question stem types, and it's easy to get them mixed up. Let's just take a common sense approach here. If you want to weaken an argument, that means you are weakening it, you're hurting it, you're harming it. You're making the conclusion feel shakier than it was initially proposed. That's it. So just like if you wanted to weaken a support beam for a house, I don't know why you would, but I'm just thinking of things you could weaken. If you wanted to weaken a structure, maybe you remove a leg, or you remove a column. You're not making the entire house topple, but you are making it more likely that it would on a long time frame. So the job of a weakened question stem is simply that, to weaken, to make it relatively less likely, to make it relatively less strong. That's it. We don't need to destroy it 100%. And we're definitely not looking to guarantee it. That'd be more like the opposite of what we're looking to do. For everything I said about weaken, it would be the opposite for strengthen. So to strengthen it, you might add an additional support beam or an additional column. You are making the conclusion relatively more likely given the initially proposed evidence. You don't have to guarantee it 100%. You're just making it more likely.
Now, do you pay attention more to the do you pay attention to the conclusion and the evidence, or you pay attention to just the conclusion?
You're paying attention to both. I mean, because you're looking to strengthen the argument as a whole. And the argument is a combination of the evidence and conclusion. That's what it consists of. And so you'll see in the theoretical overviews inside the course and then the demos of the questions, I start off by talking about how different ways to strengthen your argument would include making the evidence more relevant to the conclusion. That's one way to do it. And so that's combining both in your analysis. Or if the argument is based upon a study or a survey, if you were to strengthen the way in which the study or survey was conducted, like to say that they did, in fact, use a representative sample, or the survey questions were not heavily biased in some way, that would help the argument, because you're saying that this not only did the survey exist because we already know it existed, but on top of that, it was actually a good survey.
Okay, I got it. Because I'm actually taking the LSAT tomorrow.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. Well, this, I mean, I wouldn't say that in that case, I wouldn't do a super deep dive into all the workshops in the course or anything. I wouldn't do dozens of questions between now and tomorrow. In fact, I typically recommend trying to take it easy the day before the exam. But this is at least some good food for thought. Are you considering a potential retake in the future? I only ask because that would give you a longer horizon over which you could apply some recommendations I could give you.
So I'm looking to take my next, if I have to take it, I would do April.
Okay.
Right behind, because I really want to get in this fall. Like, I'm good with games. Games, I'm good. Reading, I'm good. It's the arguments that's pretty much, it's really just a strengthen and weaken questions. Like the parallel question, I'm good with that. Paradox question, which is really, to be honest, I feel like it's all the same. We can strengthen even the paradox, so forth. That's really the ones. And that takes like that's 2 parts alone. So even though it seems like, okay, you got everything else, but you don't have this part, it can be, it could cost me on the exam.
For sure. I mean, yeah, ideally, you want to leave no stone unturned. You want to have a confident understanding of each question type going in. And I would say between now and you taking the exam tomorrow, I wouldn't do a whole lot. I would maybe meditate on what we've talked about in this conversation, just to let it percolate a little bit. I wouldn't do a ton of practice questions or anything. But if you do end up deciding to go for an April retake, we're speaking now in early-ish March, you've got a month and a half until the April LSAT, because this year the April LSAT's at the very end of April. So you've got a good month and 20 days or so a month and a half, over which you could then do some practice LR sections. You could drill questions by type. You could watch the previous classes inside the course on these different question stem types, do some of that reframing I talked about. But honestly, I would spend the next 24 hours or so or less potentially just getting properly set up with your tech system for ProctorU for the online administration. So downloading the Chrome extension for ProctorU, doing the system check, prepping your room for the exam. So making sure you've got your pencils and pens and your scratch paper, and you've got the computer background, the background in your room doesn't have a ton of books or papers lying around because the security doesn't allow for that. I mean, how are you feeling in terms of the test day prep side of things?
Oh, I'm pretty much, I feel good about it. I already downloaded ProctorU on the Google Chrome. So that's pretty much set already. I just have to get my, wrapping paper. What is it called?
Scratch paper.
Scrap paper.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just have to get that. And that's pretty much it. Make sure I have like some Twizzlers
Yep.
nearby. And other than that, that's about it.
Nice.
What I have,
Nice.
everything else is pretty much, good. I did today, am doing like some questions to make sure that I am, that I'm on the right, the right path. So I have been doing like certain questions today.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think doing some, keeping your head in the game a little bit the day before is okay if that makes you feel more comfortable before test day, and then definitely have some warm-up questions ready to go right before you start, so that the first questions you're doing that day are not the actual ones that count, and that you're in the game.
And do you know, like, I have an idea, like, what you think the exam is going to be like? I know, like, sometimes you'll normally give an overview.
In terms of predictions,
Yes.
I'm not really big on predictions, just because no one knows for sure what's going to be covered on it exactly. But keep in mind the sections could be in any order. It's not always going to be games first, then reasoning, then reading comp. They scramble it. You could get 2 of any section as well. So the experimental section could be any of games, reasoning, reading comp. So if you were to go for end of April as a retake, I would make sure that you've done practice tests in every combination. Sometimes people just do what's there by default in Law Hub, and that's only one potential combination.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Gotcha. Oh yeah, because I was expecting it where it was like gonna be two R's and 1 games and 1 reading. So I'd rather 2 reading than no.
Well, yeah. So yeah, that's good. That's good. Good that we talked about it then, because what you see in Law Hub is just an artifact of how the LSAT used to be when there were 4 scored sections. Now that there's 3 scored sections and 1 experimental section, then it could be you could get 2 games or 2 reading comps as well. So just know that going in. I know that it may not be ideal, but at least you're mentally prepared for that possibility.
Right. And you don't know. They don't tell you which one is scored either.
No, they don't. They don't, not during the exam, no.
Oh, wow. All right, then. Okay,
just be ready for anything.
So much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I'm trying to get into Keeney's law, really. That's, and not like it's like well, yeah, they are for when it comes to public interest law. I'm really just trying to get into Keeney Law School. So I know I think their median is 150, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 150. So, that's where, I don't want to say that's my goal point. I'm looking to go further. And so we'll see.
Cool. Well, all the best. Yeah.
With my, and and I'm guessing like with my statement, because I'm going to give a diversity statement as well as a personal statement.
Great.
So for the school, so we see where it goes from there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you're looking for help with the admissions essays, personal statement, diversity statement, definitely shoot me an email, because I help out with the editing and revising and brainstorming on that stuff as well, if you're looking for ideas. Okay,
cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Let me know how it goes tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.